Hi, everybody. We'll start in about 32 seconds. Hopefully everything is working properly. It's a beautiful day outside, and it reminds me that eventually I will start doing these lessons outside again. Not yet. It'll probably be another month or two. It needs to be a little bit warmer. We'll start in about 13 seconds, in about 12 seconds. Sounds like everything's working. We'll start in about 4 seconds. 1. Well, hello and welcome to this live English lesson where you get to ask me questions, and once again, I try to answer them. It is a beautiful Saturday morning here in Ontario, Canada. It was good to see a lot of familiar faces in the chat before I got started. So let me do one thing here for a sec. There we go. It was nice to see a lot of familiar faces in the chat. I saw Semra and Natalia Belgrade are in the chat. I saw Lolly and Rod, the Brazilian English teacher. It was nice to say hi to people. Huang Vo is here. Semra, Mode Ags, Norma is here. Scrolling back, Julia Olise, Bernadette is here. Lolly, I think I've mentioned already. A lot of too many names to mention, but hello to everyone who is here to ask a few questions about the English language, and then hopefully I can give you some clear and concise answers. Before we get started, just a reminder, please use the chat for English conversations. Please don't use the chat to ask me questions, as the chat moves a little too fast for me to always be attentive to questions there. So let's use the form that Todd or Dave will link. It's good to see Moto Explore in the chat as well. Awesome to see everybody. So I was going to say, in a few weeks, it will be fun to do these lessons outside again, but I need to wait till winter is for sure over and for spring to for sure be here before I start. We are having spring-like conditions today, but it could be like winter tomorrow if you just wait. The weather changes in the month of March. Let me find the first question. Here we go. Let's see here. First question is from SL Lenka. So let's get started. Hi, Bob. Could you explain the word closure? And what does this phrase mean? He runs circles around other runners. Thank you. So closure is something that happens at the end of an experience, usually a bad experience. So if you've experienced something traumatic in your life, sometimes you want closure. Maybe someone has committed a crime, and when that person against you, and when that person goes to jail, you feel like you have closure. Closure simply means that whatever happened has run its course and it's now over and you have closure. So you can feel better because the person who committed the crime has been punished, and hopefully you have some sort of retribution. Retribution? No, that's not the right word. I think you would just feel closure. It is the best word for it. A feeling of being satisfied that justice has been done. When you run circles around someone, it means usually that you're smarter than them. You're not physically running around them. But when I look at my classes at school, sometimes I'll have a student who really knows the subject well, and they can run circles around the other students. It means that they know a lot. Some of you know a lot of English vocabulary, and you could run circles around other people who know less vocabulary. Hopefully that made some sense. Let's see here. Next question from Ruslan. Hi, dear teacher Bob. I'm glad to see you. Do you invest in the stock market? Is investing popular in Canada? Many people open broker accounts in Russia these days. So just a little bit, Ruslan. I actually owe more money than I have. If you want to know my personal finances, I have a mortgage. That's a loan from the bank. Jen and I have a loan from the bank that we used to buy the farm many, many years ago, and we're still paying off that loan. So I don't really have much invested in the stock market because I'm still paying off debt in my life. So, but is investing popular in Canada? Yes, very much so. People, especially in the last year, investing has become more and more popular. So great question, Ruslan. Interesting to hear that people in Russia are doing a lot more investing. So very interesting. Next question from Mike. Mike says, hi, Bob. Could you use these in example sentences? Contentious, self-deprecating, and to slander. Thanks. So when something is contentious, It means that it's not settled, okay? So talking about, let's say you and a friend disagree on something, having a discussion could be contentious, which means you don't agree with each other. So when something's contentious, it's not settled. Self-deprecating is when you make fun of yourself. So if I was to say, my hair looks funny today and my beard's all really rough and I wish I looked nicer, I'm being self-deprecating. I'm making fun of myself. And to slander is to publicly say something about someone else that isn't true. So slander is a serious thing. You shouldn't slander people, but it's if you say something publicly or if you put something in a newspaper that isn't true. And I'm going to pause and say welcome to the 302 people watching. I'm Bob the Canadian. This is my YouTube channel where I teach English. This is a live Q&A session where users can submit a question and I try to answer it. And if you are interested, you should click that red subscribe button if you are a new viewer. Good to have you here though. Let's go to the next question. Next question from Athanasios. Hi, dear teacher. How are you today? Correct me if I'm wrong, but we say make a copy, right? Not do a copy. Thank you. Yes. When I'm at school and I have a test that I made for the students, I will print it out and then I will make copies or I will make a copy. So if I need more than one copy, I would say I need to make copies of this. If I just need one copy, I would say I need to make a copy of this. So yes, you are totally correct. We would not use do in that sentence. How would I use do? You could say this. You could say, I need to do some photocopying. I need to go to work early because I need to do a lot of photocopying. I need to do some photocopying. So there is a way to use do, but in your question, I would certainly not. So here we have Bobo Mode. I think Mode is adding Bob to the front just so that it's more interesting because we talked about the bobolink yesterday in yesterday's lesson. I said names that start with Bob are cute names or something. Anyways, hi, Mr. Bob. How often do you use whom in spoken English? Would it sound oddly formal if you hear it? Yes, it would sound oddly formal. We generally incorrectly use who most of the time, okay? So for instance, if I was to say, let's see here, like for whom is this pizza? Some of those things just sound really, really strange, right? I'm just looking at how often we use whom. We do use it. It is very formal. It is worthwhile learning how to use it correctly because if you do any English writing, you will need to learn how to use whom versus who. Let's see. Next question from Mary. Hello, Teacher Bob. Hope you are having a good day. Could you please explain the difference between the words partly and partially? Thank you. So partly and partially mean almost the same thing. Like as I drink my water, I could say, well, this is partly gone, or I could say this is partially gone. I wouldn't worry too much about the difference. Let me try to think of another example between partly and partially. Like he was partially finished the work or he was partly finished the work. Yeah, I think we use partly a lot more, but definitely they are somewhat interchangeable. Let's see here. Next question from Ty. How many people in your family, Bob, have a great day? Well, I am a middle child. I have an older brother and an older sister, and I have a younger brother and a younger sister. I'm married to Jen, and we have 5 children. And if I look at my extended family, that's the English phrase we use when we talk about cousins and uncles and aunts. My mom has 8 brothers and sisters, and my dad, who has passed away, my dad has 4 brothers and 1 sister. So quite a large family. We don't get together very often right now because of COVID, but definitely a large family indeed. Let's see here. Oh, this is a good question. M. Bilal says, sir, up until what age can we use the word young? Just a little flip in the question there, M. Bilal. I think a kid is young till they're about 11 or 12. I think that if you have, like we say young children and then we say young adults. And so let me go through the ages. We have babies, toddlers. I would just say children or kids. And then there's something called tweens, which are like not really children, but not really teenagers. Then we have teenagers, then we have young adults, and then we have adults. So the word young is, it's kind of relative as well, right? Because some of the new teachers at school, I call them the younger teachers or the young teachers, but they're all 25 or 30. They're not that young. Hey, let me just do an audio check for a sec. I see a little bit of a problem. We're good. Looks like everything is working well. Let's get to the next question. Here we go. Natalia says, how do you deal with the mismatch of sounds and letters in English? I can't imagine how you can write in English without spelling mistakes. So kids in school, in the younger grades, when they are in grade 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 5, I think all the way to grade 8, they learn spelling as a subject. So that's one thing that's very, very helpful. In English schools, in Canada in particular, and in the United States as well, children learn how to spell. It's an actual part of their school day because, as you pointed out, the way we say words isn't necessarily how they're spelled. The way the word sounds isn't necessarily how we spell it. Some words you can figure out, but if you take a word like yesterday, I used the word atmosphere, the air around us. You can kind of figure out how to spell the first part, moss. But when you get to sphere, it's a little challenging to sound it out. So yes, we learn how to spell in school. Kids in school take spelling classes. I think up till grade 8, you take spelling classes. Let's see here. Next question from Potato. Hello, Teacher Bob. My favorite English word is schedule because the spelling is extremely difficult and strange. Do you know other words like this? Thanks. So the interesting thing with schedule is some people in Canada say schedule. A very small amount of people say schedule. Most people say schedule. So I had teachers when I was younger that said schedule, but the most common pronunciation is schedule. Don't use schedule now. Use schedule. There are other words like that, right? Like, why do we spell school with SCH? Why do we spell scholarship or scholar differently? There's, scholarship isn't the same. Bad example. But yes, there are many words that have odd spellings. They seem sometimes like they have a lot of extra letters that you don't really need. Next question is from Nurana. Hello, Teacher Bob. How are you doing? I'm doing good. My question is, what's the difference between to knit, to sew, and to weave? Thanks in advance. Have a great day. So knitting, you have 2 long needles called knitting needles, and you hold one in each hand, and you use the 2 needles to put yarn together so it becomes a fabric. Sewing you do with a small needle, and sewing you can use sewing to sew 2 pieces of clothing together, or you can sew something onto a piece of clothing. So sewing is with a fine, it's not with yarn, it's with thread. So the string you use is called thread. And weaving is done more with, if you're making a carpet or something. So they're all slightly different. And weaving doesn't require tools, although you might use a loom, which is a big machine that helps you weave. That's the extent of Bob the Canadian's knowledge about knitting, sewing, and weaving. I don't actually know a lot about them. Let's see here. Next question from Catherine. Hi, Bob. In the description under the video, there's a sentence. I'm sure you've watched many lessons. Shouldn't there be? Yes, that should be watched. Is there an error? Is it under this lesson? Let me just check for a sec. I usually, let's see. I'm sure you've watched. Yes, that's wrong. I'm going to fix it right now, Catherine. I'm sure you've watched many. When you figure out that the teacher has made an error, that's like the best feeling for a student. That means that you are awesome, Catherine, and you are very smart. I fixed it. It now says, I'm sure you've watched many English lessons. So excellent. Glad you found that. I'm glad you read the description. Sometimes I wonder if people actually read the descriptions that I write. Let's see here. So Guan from Malaysia says, what is the past tense of be? Can I have an example sentence for that? So there are a lot of different forms of the past tense, but let's talk about a really simple structure here. And let's use yesterday, today, and tomorrow, okay? Or let's use yesterday, right now and tomorrow with the verb to be. So right now, I am doing a live stream. Yesterday, I was doing a live stream. And tomorrow, I'm going to do a live stream. Now, I'm using the present continuous, I am doing. And if I say yesterday, I said I was doing. So I'm not actually using the verb to be in its true sense. A better way to do it would be this. Right now, I am thirsty. Yesterday, I was thirsty. Tomorrow, I'm going to be thirsty, or tomorrow, I will be thirsty. That last example I just gave is probably your best one. So yesterday, I was. Yesterday, he was. Yesterday, we were. Yesterday, they were. So there's some changes when you flip it around. Let's see here. This question is from Durya. Hi, Teacher Bob. I need to explain the difference between to like and to love to young learners. How should I do this in the best way? I think I did a video on the difference between like and love, and I think it's totally an okay video to show younger people. Maybe Dave or Todd can find that video. There's a video, Bob the Canadian using like versus love. And generally it works like this. When you like something, if I was to graph the emotion, it's you like it this much. When you love something, it's an even stronger emotion. And we do use like and love to talk about things, right? Like, I like spaghetti, but I love pizza. So I like spaghetti, but I love pizza. Hopefully that makes sense. Maybe Dave or Todd can find that video and put it in the chat. That'd be great. Let's see here. Lean says, hi, Bob. I hope you are doing great. I am, Lean. Thank you. What is the meaning of, for example, it's way better. It's way, yeah, it's just a way. I just used the word way. It's a way to emphasize something, okay? So you could say, this cup is larger than that cup, but you could also say, this cup is way larger. So you're kind of emphasizing that it's bigger. You could say, my video on Tuesday is about 7 to 10 minutes, but the lesson I do on Friday is way longer. Just me, because it's an hour usually. So it's a way to express, to emphasize that it's longer. You could simply say it's longer, but sometimes we want to emphasize what we're saying. Let's see here. I see a few people asking questions in the chat. Please use the link to the form to ask your questions. It just makes things a little easier. And please use the chat to have some fun conversations with each other. And I see T saying to Todd the Canadian, what purpose does the chat serve if we need to use a forum to ask a question? Well, T, we have to keep things orderly. Otherwise, there's just an insane amount of questions flying by, and no one can keep track as to which question I'm answering, okay? So if you do have a question, please use the forum. It makes things tidy and orderly. I do get through most of the questions, but not all of them. But yeah, that's the reason why we use the forum. Let's see here. Next question is from Mary Kay. Hi, Teacher Bob. Hope you're doing well. What is the difference between mob and crowd? Thank you in advance. Well, it's the mood of the crowd. So a mob is a crowd, but a mob can be angrier. A mob is usually really upset about something. So you can say, oh, there was a large crowd waiting to get into the concert. They might be happy. They might not be happy. A crowd is just a lot of people. But if you say there was a mob of people trying to get into the concert, it makes you think that they are angry about something. Okay, so a mob is usually really mad or really angry. Let's see here. Let's see. Miguel says, I want to inquire. I'm just going to fix the question a bit, Miguel. I want to inquire about how we can learn new meanings. Is it better to learn by context, images, and videos, or using raw meanings from a dictionary? So anytime you can connect new vocabulary with a visual image or a video, it's better because it forces you to not think in your native language, okay? It's very important when you get to a certain point when you're learning English that if you want to learn the word for cat, that you don't look up what a cat is in a French English dictionary or a Chinese English dictionary. You just need to see the word cat and a picture of a cat, a tree and a picture of a tree. So the more you can learn with visual images, the less you think in your own language. It's just very, very helpful. Let's get to the next question. Let's see. I'll answer the first part of this. So Jarek says, how do I build the opposite phrase to the verb must? Okay, I'm not going to talk about modals in the past, Jarek, because that would be a whole lesson in and of itself. But when you must do something, it means you have to do something. And so the opposite is to say that you don't have to do it. Okay, so we don't really negate must. Like we don't say you do not must, like just ignore that. That's not even an English sentence. But if I say, I must go to the store today, I could also say I have to go to the store today. The opposite, or if I want the negative, would be I don't have to go to the store today. I do not have to go to the store. So we don't use must in that situation when we want to go negative. We actually flip it. Let's see here. Johan from Quebec says, hi, Bob. Do you say handicapped parking space or parking space for the handicap or for disabled? We use disabled right now. I don't think I've seen the word handicapped in print for a very long time. And I think that is the most common phrase right now. Let's see here. Just searching. Generally, it's just a symbol. Oh, that's right. We are now calling it accessible parking. Okay. So we want parking that's close to our stores and businesses. We would consider it accessible. We are making a lot of progress in Ontario to make everything more accessible for people who either need assistance when walking or if they're in wheelchairs. We're trying to make the whole country accessible. It's taking a little time, but I think it's a very important thing to do. Let's see here. Syed says, hi, Bob. How are you? When it was waxing day, things were quite the opposite. What does it mean? Thanks. So we use waxing and waning when we're talking about the moon changing. So when things wax and wane, they are around and then they're gone. Okay. So I wouldn't use this phrase. It might be from a story you're reading, but a waxing day would be a day where things were just going the opposite possibly. But it's not a very common way to talk about the day. In normal English, when I'm talking to people at work, we wouldn't use that phrase at all. Let's see here. Next question is from Fox. Do you explain everything spontaneously or prepare in advance? I watched other YouTubers. They just read ready-made text. In this lesson, I explain everything spontaneously. In my Friday morning lesson, I explain everything spontaneously as well. Like yesterday, we did a lesson on the environment. And then I do read over all of the slides, and I do make sure that I'm familiar with something like carbon footprint or greenhouse gases. But I don't read from anything, no. So in this video and in my live lesson from yesterday, I'm just speaking freely off the top of my head. That's how we would describe it in English. I try to come up with an answer off the top of my head. I just think it's more natural. And honestly, it's a lot more fun for me because I'm not sure if you all realize this, but doing an English live stream where I answer questions is enjoyable for me because I like the challenge. I like the questions and I like quickly thinking of an answer. It's fun for me. So I'm going to keep doing it. Let's see here. Next question is from Aldrin. I used to say I haven't done my homework yet, but sometimes my teacher says I'm not yet finished. I'm not yet finished. So which sentence is correct? They're both correct. You could say, the teacher could say, have you done your homework? And you could say, I haven't done my homework yet. I haven't done my homework yet. I'm not yet finished. When you say I'm not yet finished, it sounds a little more formal. Probably the most common phrase would be to say, I'm not done yet. I haven't done my homework yet. Most students would just say, I'm not done yet, or I didn't do it. They would just kind of create a really short sentence like that. Let's see here. Sagar says, hi, Teacher Bob. How are you doing today? I have two questions. One, please explain the meaning of the adjective dynamic. For example, a dynamic body. And what does geek mean? So when a person is dynamic, they're just very energetic. They're they talk quickly. They move their hands a lot when they talk. They're alive, very, very alive when they're talking. When something else is dynamic, it means it's capable of change, okay? So you could say the flow of the river is very dynamic. So it might go slow and fast, and it's just changing quite a bit. And a geek is just someone who likes computers and likes smartphones and likes the internet. A geek is someone who likes everything that plugs into the wall and I'm a geek there. I'll just admit it. I'm definitely a geek. Geek and nerd are very similar, but they are people who just really, really like technology and love learning about it, etc., etc. Hey, I do want to say hi to the 505 people watching. It's awesome to see all these people here. If you are new here, don't forget to click. Did I point the wrong way? I have the wrong screen up. Don't forget to click that red subscribe button if you're new here. Let's get to the next question. Ahmad says, hi teacher, can you please tell us the best way to start an ESL business? I don't really know the best answer to that, Ahmad, but I would say this. People really want their children to learn English. In particular, they want teenagers to learn English. So I think there is a large market for teaching children and teenagers English via an online mechanism like Skype or FaceTime or Zoom. So if you were starting an ESL business, that is the market I would target. The second market I would target would be business people who are wanting to learn English for business or improve their English. But I don't know. I've never really thought about it much, about how to start it. Jessica, what's the meaning of insofar as and to the extent that? Thank you in advance. So they're just kind of ways to begin a sentence or join two sentences. And they're not quite filler words, and they're quite formal, by the way. So here's a good sentence. Insofar as I am thirsty, I will now drink some water. If I was writing an essay, I would probably use terms like this, okay? You could say that something like, to the extent that the vaccine is in short supply, we need to order more. So it's very formal, and it's kind of just a way to introduce a fact and then comment on the fact, but definitely very formal. Zeus Tovar from Colombia. If I want to improve my speaking, what is the best way? TV series, books, or music? None. Sorry. I mean, they're all very important. You should definitely be watching TV. You should definitely be reading books, and you should definitely be listening to music. But if you want to improve your speaking, you should be hiring someone or finding someone who you can have an English conversation with once a week. Certainly listening to music and singing along really helps your speaking. Reading a book out loud helps your speaking. Watching a TV series might help you learn new words. You could pause the TV series and repeat what people are saying to practice your speaking. But the best way to practice your conversation skills is to find a person who you can talk to. And there is a link in the description to a website called Preply that you can use to find someone. It does cost money, but it is worthwhile to find an English speaking partner. Next question from Abel. Let me check the time here. There, we're good. Hi, Bob. Hope you're doing okay. If something is removed physically from a place, would you say that it was taken away? Can you give some examples? Thank you. Yes. If something is removed physically, it is taken away. The other day, my old truck was taken away. It's no longer here. A man came with the tow truck and he put it on the tow truck and left. And so my truck was taken away. It is gone. It went to the scrapyard to get recycled. So that was kind of cool because it's been sitting in my yard for a long time. It's in the background of some of my videos sometimes. And sometimes people ask, are you ever going to get rid of that old rusty vehicle? It's gone now. Let's see here. Marcos Ravina says, hello, Teacher Bob. No questions today. Just to thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. I hope you and your family have a great weekend. We are having a great weekend so far. Kids are outside right now because it's warm. I think the fact that they can go outside when I do my live lessons is good for them, because otherwise they have to kind of sit quietly for an hour and read a book, or they just go play in an area far away from me. Anyways, yes, we are having a good weekend. Thank you for the kind words and sharing that thought. Hey folks, I'm going to flip the chat for a moment here. Give me 1 second. I want to, first of all, thank everyone who is a member. Members have clicked the join button below the video, and they've decided to support me. When you are a member, you get a crown beside your name in the chat, and your name is in green. And at this point in the lesson, you can ask questions directly in the chat. So we'll do that for about 10 minutes. For all of the rest of you, the 566 people watching, we will go back to normal chat in about 9 or 10 minutes. But for now, this is just one of the ways I thank my members. Julia says, I usually visit the hairdresser once every 3 months or so. Little correction there, Julia. I get my hair cut usually every month, Julia, by the way. It's getting to be time again. Eventually, one side of my head, the hair sticks up when I wake up in the morning, and it's not great. Mode Egg says, I think I used the bobolink joke enough to remember its name forever. Let's just hope it doesn't go extinct. Yeah, should I find the bobolink slide quickly? I still have the bobolink here from yesterday. There it is. There's the bobolink. The bobolink is an endangered species, and we talked about it yesterday in the lesson about the environment. That was good though. That's a good joke, Mode Eggs. Beside it, used with the image light, what are the other uses of reflect and reflect on? They can be confusing sometimes. So yes, when you hold up a mirror, it will reflect light, okay? But I can reflect on yesterday's lesson and smile. So it just means I'm thinking about something in the past. And those are really the two meanings we would use the most. I'm trying to think of another meaning because we have a word as well, deflect. So if something hits something, it can deflect. That's not the same as reflect. It's more like, if a bullet hits the wall, the wall will deflect the bullet. It doesn't reflect it. Reflect is used for light, definitely. Let's see here. Moto Explorer. Hi, Teacher Bob. What kind of motorcycle did you used to ride, and how difficult is getting an M1 license? I had a Yamaha. Oh, why am I forgetting the name? I had a Yamaha 400 Maxim. That was the motorcycle that I had. It was really nice. 400 cc's. It wasn't super powerful, but it was powerful enough. I really enjoyed it. It's fairly difficult getting an M1 license. Yeah, you have to go and do a road test, and it's pretty strict. They want motorcycle drivers to be very, very good drivers. So you have a fairly strict lesson. Madi, hi Bob. How to use these words in a sentence? Thee and thus. So those are very, very old words. I don't even know how to use thee in a sentence. Let's see. Thee, because we have thee and thou and thus. Thus just mean, yeah. Let me find example sentences for you. Example sentence with thee. How did thee learn to draw such a picture? That's the example. Like it basically means you, right? And we don't use it very much anymore. Thus, though, I think we've heard she was thus occupied when Alex joined her at the meeting. So thus means she was in this way occupied. Very rare though, Madi, for us to use those words for sure. Let me see here. For those of you who are wondering what's happening right now, I'm not answering this question. I am answering questions directly from the chat. You can read along if you are here. I just looked at Madi's question. Now I'm going to jump down to Rod's question. Hi, Rod. Mr. Bob, I hope you're well and have no question today. I'd like to always say thank you for everything. Yes, no problem, Rod. No problem at all. And I don't think it's a secret. I'll just tell people, Rod will have a video on his channel in a couple weeks probably, where he's asked me a few questions, and then I'm going to go out later this week and answer them on video, and then he'll put it together. That'll come out, I would say, in 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah, I'm no rush, I don't think. Julia, dear teacher, I'm curious about the phrase touch base. What does it mean? So if you don't see someone for a long time, you can say, hey, we should get together, and I just want to touch base on something. It means you want to talk to them about something. Sometimes my boss will say, hey, I know you have a busy day, but at 3 o'clock, can we touch base about the computer program? Or can we touch base about something that I have to ask you? So basically it means to connect with someone or to talk to them. Sometimes it's good to touch base with people. Panthera, dear teacher Bob, can you explain to me what the difference is between requite and acquit? They can be used as to return a compliment. So I would say acquit means to be found not guilty. Okay, so and then requite, we don't use that word very often at all. To make an appropriate return, they are quick to requite a kindness. Very rare word, not used very often at all. But acquit would mean basically that you're found not guilty of some kind of criminal activity. Let's see here. Samuel Chen. Hi, Teacher Bob. Recently, I worked with an engineer in the UK remotely. I think your live and lessons are really helpful to my English skills. Have a nice day. Good to hear that, Samuel Chen. I'm glad I can help you out. Brent is here from American English with this guy. Did people always ask you to move stuff because you had a truck? I ask my brother all the time. Yes. Actually, a while ago, I had an actual pickup truck. And yes, people would quite often ask. Now people just ask if they can borrow my trailer. That's what happens. Julia, thank you for correcting my sentence. No problem. Gertrudis, thank you for your useful English class yesterday. We have to take action about how to be earth friendly. Yes, Gertrude, for sure. And just a reminder, we had a lesson yesterday, not about the bobolink, totally, but we had a lesson on the environment. It was a fun lesson. You can go and watch it. It will also come out tomorrow in a shorter format. That's a little quicker to watch. Let's see here. Madi, thanks. Vladimir says, I have no question today, but using the time, I want to say hello to Mr. Bob. Well, hello, Vladimir. Bob, and to everyone. I wish a good weekend. Mr. Bob, it's really good that you create a big community. Best regards. Yes, I will not take all the credit for it. I think the fun of the live stream, especially for those that like to chat, is something you guys have created, that you have created. So it's really fun. In fact, one time I was talking to a student and they let me know that half the fun of the live stream is just chatting to other people, not necessarily the lesson. That always makes me laugh. Semra, that is awesome to watch and listen to you, Bob. Doesn't matter what you talk about. Thanks, Semra. That's awesome. Panthera, we tend to use the word reflect when putting comments on architectural plans that had to be checked before and which other plans they should reflect. Yes, we often ask people, like we'll say, hey, can you read this and then reflect on it a bit and then give me some feedback? We do that at work as well. If I'm using something in class, like let's say I make an assignment for students, I might go to the other teacher, the other French teacher, and say, hey, can you read over my assignment and then reflect on it for a day and then give me some feedback? That means I want her to think about it for a day and tell me what she thinks. Lolly says, hello, Gertrudis. Thanks for saying hi, Lolly. Marco says, these is commonly used in Christian songs, which use very formal words sometimes. That's very true, Marcos. If you're ever in a church and they're singing older hymns, those are Christian religious songs, they will often have thee and thou in them. Let's see. Julia, thank you, dear teacher. No problem. Gertrudis, hello, dear Holly or Lolly. How's it going? Modags, I know it's a little weird, but for some, the rhyme of witty and uppity is still ringing in my ear. Maybe because I watched the video many times. Yes, that was a fun video to make. It was fun to make the nose in the air, arrogant pose for someone who is uppity, arrogant, or stuck up. Yes. Let's see here. Estrie says, grammar makes me confused sometimes. You know, Estrie, the more you listen to a language, the more you listen to English in particular, the more sense it will make. It's good to study grammar, but it's also good to listen to a lot of English and read a lot of English so that you just kind of see it and hear it a lot. Let's see here. Panthera, do you tend to use the saying in Canada, I'm from your neck of the woods? Yes, we definitely use that phrase. People will say things like, oh, are there a lot of snowmobiles out in your neck of the woods? And a month ago, I would have said yes, for sure. Julia, Modags, are you from Germany? Lolly, in Canada, do you listen to singers from Quebec? Merci. A little bit, but I will tell you this. English-speaking people in Canada and in the United States almost exclusively listen to English music. It is my understanding that the rest of the world usually listens to music from all different countries and English music as well, but we are very Anglo-centric in North America. It's not a good thing, but almost all of the music that we listen to is English music. We don't often listen to other music from other countries or other provinces. Sorry. Let's see here. I think I've once heard unrequited love used for one-sided love. Yes, that is probably the best example of requite, using the unrequited version of it. Yes, that is definitely more common than requite, for sure. Panthera, can you explain to your teacher Bob what jab at someone means? Well, when you take a few jabs at someone, In boxing, it means you're actually punching, but that's not what this means. If someone says a few mean things about you at work, you could say, that person keeps taking jabs at me. Like, and it's not polite to do that. So a jab is like an insult. A small insult is a jab. Let's see here. Lolly says, thanks, Bob. Haha. And then Panthera, one more question from me. Can you explain what it means to make a point mundane, to make it more common? Yes, when you make something mundane, you make it more common or you make it commonplace, okay? So the mundane is always like the normal, the everyday, the ordinary is definitely considered the mundane. Hey folks, I'm gonna flip the chat back to everybody chat. Let me just do that for one moment. And if a few more questions from members show up, I will happily answer them, but I'm going to get back to the questions over here. Let's see here. I'm going to scroll back for a sec though. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. And while I'm doing that, I do want to say thank you to all my members. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate you being around. I appreciate the chat. I appreciate that you are welcoming to other people in the chat. I appreciate that you help other people in the chat. You guys are awesome. And Anuat has a great comment. In O Canada, the Canadian national anthem, we do say, we stand on guard for thee. So there you go. That's pretty old, but we do still use the word, we stand on guard for thee. I'm not going to sing it, by the way. Maybe someday. Although I was giving marriage advice in a video the other day. That was new. I hadn't done that before. Next question. Balut says, hi Bob, what does the word Karen mean? Thanks. So first of all, Karen is a woman's name. So it's a name for a girl or a woman in English. But in the recent year or year and a half, it has come to mean a middle-aged woman who gets very angry in public, maybe at a store owner or a store clerk or a cashier. So a Karen, it's not a nice thing to call someone. If you say to someone, oh, you're being a Karen or you're being such a Karen, you basically are telling them that you saw them complaining publicly to someone. Sometimes you'll see videos on the internet and it'll say, look at this Karen complaining at the grocery store. So the lady's name isn't actually Karen. She's just now has the label of being a Karen, which is an insult now. It's not good to be a Karen. Not a very nice insult though, to take what was a perfectly good name and now it's not a nice thing to say. But anyways. Samaya says, hello, Teacher Bob. Hope everything is going well. Could you please explain to me what's the meaning of determine? I think there are several meanings of this word. Well, when you try to determine something, it means you're trying to find the answer. Okay. So if let's say I couldn't find my favorite cup. This isn't my favorite cup. Let's pretend this is my favorite cup. I would try to determine what happened to it. I would try to figure out what happened to it. I would try to find out what happened to it. I would try to determine what happened to it. But if we add a D and we say determined, now we're describing a person. If a person is determined, they're serious about getting a job done. They're going to start the job and they're going to finish it on time. They are determined. They have direction. They have energy to get something done. So those are the two definitions I'll give here. They're probably two of the more common. Let's see here. I do want to say hi to the 579 people watching. Hi, everybody. I'm Bob the Canadian. I teach English here on YouTube. If you want to subscribe, it's totally free. And there's a button right there. If you click it, you become a subscriber, and then you find out when I put new English lessons out. Let's see here. I'm going to just review the chat for a sec, just in case. Mode says, thank you, Mr. Bob, and sorry for asking a lot of questions today. No, Mode, questions are awesome. I love questions. And then Andrzej says, Teacher Bob, one day you were talking about how to find someone who would like to practice speaking English. It was a web portal. Could you remind? Thank you for your heart in teaching. So there's a link below to a website called Preply. It does cost money, but you can use it to find someone who you can pay to have English conversations with. And there are more websites than just Preply. There's italki, there's Cambly, but there are many ways if you can find the money, and I think it's worth it to get lessons for sure. Let's see here. So Aya 009, or is it 009? You know, if you watch spy movies, there's 007. James Bond is 007. So maybe Aya is actually a secret agent. We're not sure. Aya 009 or 009. Hi, Mr. Bob the Canadian. When do we use the word go before activities? For example, go swimming or go jogging. Thank you. Yeah, that's a good question. Let's see. Tomorrow I'm going to go hiking. Notice you have to use go twice there, right? Or I will go hiking. In the summer, I'll go swimming, go skiing. We use go a lot, right? But I could also say tomorrow, let's see, I'm going hiking. Tomorrow I'm going to go for a hike. Tomorrow I'm going hiking. Tomorrow I'm going to hike. Yeah, it's really, tomorrow I will hike at the park. I think we throw go in a lot just because it makes the phrase sound a little, it just flows a little bit better, right? Like I'm going to go climbing. I'm going to go mountain climbing. Yeah, sounds like we use it a lot for activities, Aya, but I don't know exactly why we use it. Let's see. Yaroslav, hi dear teacher Bob. Hope you are well. I am Yaroslav. I hope you are as well. My question is it possible to learn French after English? People say it is easier because both have many things in common. I'm going to add a word there. So here's the thing. English and French have a lot of the same structures. And English and French, like when you learn the word, let's see here. Let's see. When you learn the word dog in English, it's very easy to learn the word le chien in French. It's just another word for dog that you can add to your brain, your knowledge. I think it's easier to go from English to French or English to a European language. I think it's much more challenging to learn a language from let's say from parts of Asia where the structure and the tones and the form are much different. So I would say French is a good choice after English. It will still be hard. There are many things in French that I find confusing because it's not the same as English, but definitely it is worthwhile as a third language if that's what you're thinking. Next question from Moo, which is what cows say as well. Did you know that? Moo. Hi, Teacher Bob. Could you help pronounce in it, on it, and not at all in a linking way? Thanks so much. So let's see here. When I make cookies, I put sugar in it. No, that's not a good example. That worked, but let me just think of a better example. You could say, does this cookie have sugar in it? Does this cookie have sugar in it? So I'm trying not to eat sugar right now. So I could take a bite and then say, does this cookie have sugar in it? So you hear how fast it is? Does this cookie have sugar in it? So very connected, okay? Do you want a piece of cake? Does the cake have icing on it? I hope the cake doesn't have icing on it. So on it isn't quite as fast. It sounds exactly like it's spelled. And then not at all. Hey, do you mind going to the grocery store today? Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Notice how the T, right, becomes the D. So not at all. Not at all. So thank you so much is what Moose says at the end. Hey, my brain's not working as good as it's supposed to. Let me have a sip of water. Sometimes it's hard to answer these questions. Let's see here. Ario says, Hola, Mr. Bob. I cried yesterday because I missed my childhood series so much, a drama serial. My question, have you missed childhood series? Thank you. Yes, there are certain things I watched as a kid that I definitely miss. I watched a show when I was 10 or 11 called The A-Team. Brent will know this show. So The A-Team was a show. It was on every Tuesday night at 8. I watched every single episode when I was, I think, 11, 12, and maybe 13. If I wasn't allowed to watch it, if I had done something bad and my parents said I couldn't watch that show, I would cry. And do I miss the show? Yeah, but the nice thing now is things that you miss from when you were younger, you can usually find online somewhere. So, but definitely, yes, Ario, it does make me sad to think about TV shows or the first few movies I watched as a kid. Those were fun as well. Let's see here. Famida, hi, Teacher Bob. How are you doing? I'm doing good, Famida. My questions are, is take out or bring out having the same. Do take out and bring out have the same meaning? Just going to fix that a bit. How often do you use will versus shall? We don't use shall very often. It's very formal. Like, you shall do this. You shall do your homework tonight, or tomorrow there will be consequences. Like, very rare that I use shall. It is used, but very rare. But let me go back to take out and bring out. Sometimes I need to take out the garbage. Sometimes I need to bring out the garbage. So it depends on what you're using it for. And then take out has a lot of different meanings, by the way, because it can be used as a noun to talk about food that you get from a restaurant. You could say, we're going to get takeout tonight. That means you're going to get food from the restaurant and eat it at home. And you can take someone out on a date. So that means that you are, there's someone that you're romantically interested in. You could take them out on a date. There's even more sinister meanings of takeout. If someone takes someone else out, it could mean that they killed them. So a lot of meanings for take out, for sure. It's good to learn all of them so you don't get them confused. Let's see here. Michelle says, hey mate, how are you doing? Good. Bob, as far as I'm concerned, in Canada, pine cones are sought after. Hence, do you make confiture out of it or jams? No, but people do collect pine cones. Pine cones come from pine trees, and they're like the really cool brown thing. We put them on our Christmas trees in the winter. Jen makes wreaths and she uses them. I'm sure you could make some kind of jam out of them, but I have not had anything like that. Let's see. Next question from Katerina. Hello, Bob. Is military service mandatory in Canada? Did you serve in the military? So no and no. In Canada, we are not required to do any kind of military service. I know there are some countries in the world, like South Korea and Israel, where you have to serve in the military for a year or two. I have had Korean students who have come from Korea, and when they graduate from our school, they go back to Korea and they need to do their military service. In fact, I have a former student right now who is doing their military service. So no, Katerina, we don't have that here. I think if we did, it would have been good for me, actually. I think it would have been good for me after grade 12 to go in the military for 2 years. It would have taught me some discipline. Rodion, what is the difference? Little fix there. What is the difference between ought to, must, and have to? Yeah, I think I explained this last week as well. Must and have to are almost exactly the same. In order to be healthy, I must walk every day. In order to be healthy, I have to walk every day. It's very forceful. Like, it's something that you can't choose not to do. You must do it. Okay. If you want to drive a car, you must have a driver's license. You have to have a driver's license. But ought to has an element of being a bit optional. Okay. So you could say to someone, oh, if you want to lose weight, you ought to eat less. It doesn't mean you're forcing them to. It's just like a really good recommendation. You ought to do that. I wanted to scroll back and see if Brent responded. I pity the fool. Yeah, I was wondering if Brent was going to respond to my reference to the A-Team. So yes, I pity the fool was something said by Mr. T in that show. Great show. If Brent, I don't know if you've watched it recently. If you ever do, you might be surprised at how badly written it is and how bad the acting is. Often when you go and watch TV shows from many, many years ago, you realize they weren't very well made at the time. Let's see. Next question from Christian. Hi, Bob. How are you doing? Good, Christian. I hope you're doing well as well. Could you please explain the meaning of stand by when used with people? Thank you. So, yeah, like the most literal term is one person can stand by another person. But what you're meaning is to wait. And yeah, we don't use it a lot. It has kind of a military sound to it. If a student said to me, hey, can you read over my assignment and tell me what's good? I could say, okay, stand by. I'll get to it in a minute. But it sounds very much like the military. So you'll hear it if you watch a police show. They'll tell people to stand by. Sometimes your television, it'll say, we're experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by. And it simply means to wait. Yes. There's probably more meanings, but those are the ones that come to mind right now. Dominic has the next question. Let's see here. Hi, Hi, Bob. I'm struggling with using the words alone and lonely. The second one looks like an adverb or something, but I see another usage of it everywhere. So, yeah, because you say that person is alone. Okay, so that means they're by themselves. It doesn't refer to how they're feeling. Okay, so you could say he lives alone or he went to the movie alone. It's simply a factual statement that that person is doing something by themselves. You're saying there's no one else there. But when you say a person is lonely, or when you use the word lonely, you're saying it's a feeling. So you feel lonely when there's no one else around. So a person who lives alone might feel lonely. Okay, so that's the best example I think I can give for now. Next question from Bruce. Hi, Bob. Wishing you a great day. Little fix there, Bruce. How to pronounce words that have more than 2 syllables, such as academic, banana, analysis, energy, parallel. What is the rule? There's no one rule other than you kind of have to learn how to pronounce them, okay? So academic, banana, analysis, energy, and parallel is how I would say them in my Canadian accent, which is probably how most of North America would say all of those. Academic, banana, analysis, the plural is analyses, I think, and then energy and parallel. So there probably are some rules, Bruce, but generally people just hear and repeat and learn how to pronounce it like everyone else. Let's see here. Chili Willy says, is it correct to pluralize the word experience, such as thanks for sharing your experiences at the summer camp with me? Yes. Yep. Definitely you would pluralize it, because experience on its own doesn't convey that there were multiple things the person did at summer camp. Okay. So I could say, when I was a kid, I had a job. I worked in construction and I had a lot of good experiences when I was working in construction. You could say, I had a lot of good experience, but that means something a little bit different. Okay. That means that you learned how to do the job. So experiences are just things you did, but experience can also refer to learning to do something. Like he got a lot of experience working for his uncle. So that means he learned how to do the job. So experiences just refers to a whole bunch of little things that you've done. Hey, I want to say hi to the 637 people watching. If you're new here, don't forget to click that red subscribe button and you'll get notified when I do a new lesson. And just so you are aware, there are over 50 questions in the queue, and I will probably not get to all of them today. I'm going to answer a few more right now quickly, but I'm a little bit overloaded with questions. Next question is from MT. What is the difference between adolescent and teenager? We use those terms interchangeably. Adolescent is a little more formal. So if you were writing about adolescents, you would be talking about teenagers. I'm going to skip a few questions along the way. Let's see here. Sarah says, hi, Bob. I am from Hong Kong. Thank you for your great effort on different subjects. If I say, please complete the job by the end of the day, which one is correct? So I would say you need to complete the job by the end of the day, and then you can go home at the end of the day. Okay, so that's how I would say it. If you say you need to complete the job at the end of the day, it means the person needs to do the job last. Okay, so I would say you need to do these 10 things, but I want you to do this one at the end of the day. So you can use both, but they have slightly different meanings, okay? So I think the way you're saying it is, I would say this: you need to complete the job by the end of the day. You have from now until the end of the day to finish the job. You need to complete it by the end of the day. Next question from Katerina from Ukraine. Hello, dear teacher Bob. Today, I also complain about weather. It's snowing, freezing, and cold, only 2 degrees above zero. How can I say more that I don't like the weather? Well, I would just say it's not very nice outside. The weather's awful. Or you could just say, I hate the weather during the month of March. You can express it almost any way you want. But I agree with you. March is a little bit strange for weather. I think you share a lot of the same weather as me. Some days it's spring-like and other days it's winter-like. It's kind of, it's a mixed bag when it comes to weather in March. Okay, we had this question already. Let's see here. Next question from Yvonne. I have to speak in English with foreigners as an immigration officer, but I learn English through TV or YouTube. How do I learn to speak English more formally? Yeah, that's a good question because there is no formal English versus informal English. Like there's no book that says how to speak formal English or how to speak informal English, because in English, it's not like other languages. It's kind of vague what the difference is between formal and informal, okay? Because many phrases that seem informal, you could use in a formal setting. I would just say, learn to speak English as clearly and as properly as possible, and see if you can find books that teach you vocabulary specifically for being an immigration officer. Maybe there are books available in your country for, English language, verbs and vocabulary for being an immigration officer. But that's a tricky one because you would need to speak very formally as an immigration officer. And TV might not be the best place to learn it. It might be, but it could be. Let's see. Okay. Iqbal says, hello, teacher. Hope you are well. Can you explain the word however and an example of however? Some people say that however, the word is an alternative meaning to but. Is it true? Okay. So, like, how could I say this? Yeah, it is a little bit like but, right? You could say, I like to run for exercise. However, since I'm older now and my knees hurt when I run, I just walk. So I could use but in that case as well. I could say, I used to like running, but because I'm older. So there are situations where you definitely can use but and however together. Let me see here. Next question is from Laura. Hello, Teacher Bob. What's the difference between signal and sign? So in terms of traffic, we have traffic signals. So that's an actual light that changes color. And a sign is just something on the side of the road with a message on it, okay? So I would say, yeah, if that's what you're talking about, Laura, a signal is what you see when two roads come together. There will be traffic signals or traffic lights there. I think that's what you were meaning. Let's see. Not sure, James, how to answer this. Hi, teacher. Could you help me with pronouncing combining two words, for example, GR and GL? Thanks so much. Yeah, I'm not quite sure on the question, James, so I'm going to move on. Sorry about that. It happens every once in a while where I can't understand the question. Difference between American and Canadian English, negligible. That might be a new word for some of you. Negligible means there's hardly any difference. There is hardly any difference between American and Canadian English. Slight difference in accent. A few words are spelled differently, but generally Americans and Canadians can have perfectly normal conversations without even always noticing the other person has an accent. It's very easy for Americans and Canadians to speak to each other. Let's see. Okay, Jamie says, hello, sir. As we can call you Bob, are your students allowed to call you by your first name too? What do relationships between teacher and students look like in Canada? So generally, students will call me sir, or they'll call me by my last name. They'll say Mr. and then my last name. My students do not call me Bob. If I was teaching a night class and my students were adults, they would call me Bob, okay? If I was in university, I would call my professor by, I would say professor and then their last name as well. Let's see here. Next question from Lucy. Bob, you are awesome. Thanks, Lucy. This is the first time that I come to your live show. I've been learning a lot. Thank you so much. You're welcome, Lucy. It's good to see you here. That's awesome. Let's see here. Next question from Eugene from Etobicoke. Good morning, Bob. Did you drive an RV to travel? Did you ever stay in an outdoor campground? No, but when I was a kid, my mom and dad rented an RV. An RV is a recreational vehicle. It's basically a house on wheels. And we went to Nova Scotia. So when I was a kid, we did go on a trip once in an RV and we did some camping. But Jen and I don't go camping very often. We're not really campers. Let's see. VJ says, hello, what activities would you include in a weekly learning plan? I'm focusing on speaking and at the moment. So I did a video on this once called The Best Way to Learn English, which is kind of a interesting title. Makes it seem like I know, but I recommend that you do reading, writing, listening, speaking, learn a bit of grammar, and build your vocabulary, and do that all week. Okay. BJ, you got to do all of it. You got to do all the things when you learn something like English. Let's see. Next question. Yeah, Felipe. Any tips on when I should use phrasal verbs? So a little fix there. All the time, Felipe. Sometimes students learning English ask if they need to learn phrasal verbs. Do English speakers actually use them? Yes, we use them all the time. There is no conversation in English that doesn't have a few phrasal verbs thrown in. We use them all the time. So yes, you do need to learn them. Tamer. Hello, teacher. What about vaccination in Canada? Have you been vaccinated? No, but my sisters who work in healthcare have been vaccinated. My mom will be vaccinated in about a month or in about 3 weeks. And I'm starting to hear about people who are vaccinated. Teachers get vaccinated, I think, in about 6 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks. So I'm looking forward to that. It's taking a while, but we're not ahead of the rest of the world, but we're not behind. Not that it's a competition, but eventually. Next question is from Mini Bob. What's the difference between huge and quite? So first of all, small, large, huge are all ways to talk about the size of something. But the word quite is used to emphasize a little bit. So you could say, well, he was quite large. That man was quite large. Or, wow, that car was quite large. It's kind of just a way to mean a little bit bigger. So quite and huge are actually different. We use words used in different ways. Let's see. Yeah, all the small things. Isn't that a song? Who sings that? Blink 182? It's definitely not about learning English, Brent, but there's definitely a song that has that phrase in it somewhere. Let's see here. I'm going to skip the next one and I'm going to answer this one. So Estrie says, hello, Bob. How can I practice my English speaking skills when I'm alone? So I'm going to finish with this question. The best way to practice English speaking when you're alone, number 1, read out loud. Number 2, sing along when you're listening to English songs. Number 3, describe what you're doing out loud when you're doing it. Okay. This can be difficult because if you're walking around outside, people might look at you funny, but you should say things like, I'm doing a live stream. I'm drinking some water. I'm giving an answer. So, and then another thing you can do is you can record yourself speaking and listen to it again. You can find a video and you can kind of say the lines of one person. If there's 2 people talking, you can memorize the line. You just have to be really creative in finding out ways to just make sure you're using the language a lot. It's not the same as conversation practice, but it can really, really, really help. Hey, I do want to just end by saying hi again, or bye to the 655 people watching. If you're new here, don't forget to click that subscribe button. Don't forget that tomorrow there will be a shorter version of this lesson coming out on the environment. I think it was a pretty good lesson. People did enjoy it, so look for that in about 48 hours. I do want to thank Todd and Dave for being here and moderating the chat. I want to thank my members as well for helping in their own way to moderate the chat. I know some of you are quite helpful. Panthera, Nori, and a few of you are quite helpful with new people in the chat. That's awesome. If you're new here and you're wondering what you're watching, I'm Bob the Canadian. I teach English here on YouTube. This was a live Q&A session. There will be a new video this coming Tuesday and a new lesson, live lesson on, I think, a fairly fun topic this coming Friday. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, though, because I have 2 topics in mind and I haven't picked one yet. So we'll see. Anyways, good to see all of you. Big shout out to Rod, the Brazilian English teacher, and Brent from American English with This Guy, 2 fellow English teachers on YouTube. And I just want to say bye. Have a great weekend. I look forward to seeing some of